Hello everybody, welcome back to Motorcycle.com and what is usually the gorgeous and the beautiful and the iconic Laguna Seca Raceway. Today, well, as you can see, it's cloudy, it's wet, it's cold, not as glamorous as some people think Laguna Seca is or should be, but behind me, some motorcycles that I've loved since its beginning in 2009. And those two beauties are definitely very exquisite and exotic. Those are the 2021 Aprilia RSV4, the one that's the gray one over there. Over there is the RSV4 factory. Now, obviously we're here to test them, try them out, see what's new, and see how they work. You know, at first glance, they might look like the same old RSV4s that we've come to know and love since 2009. But there's been some subtle but really notable changes to the RSV4 line. This is all kind of spurred on by Euro 5 and the emissions requirements that every manufacturer has to get through. But of course, Aprilia being Aprilia, they're not just going to update some exhaust systems to meet Euro 5. The whole bike's going to get a thorough makeover. And that's kind of the history of the RSV4 in a nutshell, is constant refinement and evolution of the breed. And what we have here is the most recent installment of that. So first things first, you can see it looks the same but different, right? The nose section of it is now styled a lot more like the RS660. That's kind of the design philosophy Aprilia is going to be going with going forward, at least for the immediate future. So you can see that influence from the RS660 right there on the nose section of it. But that being said, the whole front fairing has been redesigned for better aero and better protection for the rider. Aprilia says that front section reduces the amount of airflow to the rider, like across the shoulders, by about 11%, but it also adds about 7% more airbox pressure to the intake. So it doesn't really add too much power. It's still rated at 217 horsepower. Does give you a slight uptick in torque, possibly because of the 7% more airbox pressure, but more likely because the engines in both of these bikes now have been expanded. They're bigger. The previous 1100 RSV4 was really a 1078. Now what Aprilia has done with the RSV4 and the RSV4 factory, they are both true genuine 1100cc V4s. The 81mm bore stays the same. Stroke has now increased from 52.3mm to 53.3mm, so a 1mm increase in stroke gives you the 1099cc. There's a new crankshaft that's lighter. Obviously, lighter is better on superbikes. So those are two big changes. Visually speaking, let's get back to that. Like I said, it looks very much like an RSV4, right? But when you get a closer look, not only is that nose section a little bit more broad to give you better protection over your shoulders from the air, but the fuel tank is also lower profile to help you get into a tuck better. The seat is a little bit lower. The gas tank is not only lower, but it's also a little bit more narrow. The foot pegs are lower, but Aprilia says you actually get more ground clearance by about 1.5 degrees on either side. So lower seat, lower pegs, but you get more ground clearance than before. I've only sat on the bike so far this morning. Kind of got into a tuck on a stationary motorcycle to see what it's all about. It feels noticeably more compact, but that's a good thing in this case for my body type. I liked how I can get lower in a tuck and still be able to see out the windscreen, tuck my elbows in a little bit more, so that's all nice too. The swing arm is now inspired by MotoGP. You got the bracing on the underside of the swing arm, whereas before you had like more of this banana-shaped swing arm that raised above and then came back below. The slot for the rear axle has now been expanded to give you even a broader range of wheelbase options if that's your jam. Especially the part you can't see, that's been a big improvement. Aprilia has updated the electronics yet again on the RSV4. Aprilia has always been on top of things when it comes to electronics on their superbikes, and the RSV4 continues that tradition. You also get adjustable engine brake, which you didn't have before. 6-axis IMU, an all-new 11 MP ECU, just the trickiest, most advanced stuff on the market today. The processing power is 4 times faster than the previous model. So just a constant refinement, greater flexibility and more intelligence when it comes to the lean angle sensitive traction control, cornering ABS. You also get the bending headlights. If you opt to ride this thing on the street, the headlights will turn with the corner because of the IMU. You can see over here the gray model is the base version. It's just called the RSV4. There's no more RSV4RR. There's no more RSV, whatever else they used to call things. Base model RSV4. The up-spec model is the RSV4 factory. What makes the factory version the up-spec model, you ask? Well, you get Öhlins electronic suspension for one, and you get forged aluminum wheels for two. Those are the two main differences between the factory version and the standard version. You do pay for that a little bit on the pocketbook. The standard RSV4, $19,000. The factory version is $25,000 or so. So, you know, there's a bit of a up-spec cost to go with the up-spec model, but that's to be expected, right? So, what we have left to do now is to go ride these things, obviously. It's been a crazy morning here at Laguna Seca, wet, cold. The track is finally drying off a little bit now. I think we're cleared to launch, so we're gonna go put the helmets on, go spin some laps, and we'll come back and tell you how it is. So unfortunately the weather didn't exactly cooperate with us today, but it stayed mostly dry, but it was kind of chilly. Nonetheless, we rode the bikes with the Supercorsa SP Pirellis, the DOT street version of the Supercorsa, with no warmers, and not one bike fell down. So as long as you take the time to warm them up, they work fine. And what a bike to warm up tires on. If you've seen anything I've done with the RSV4 in the past, you know I love this motorcycle. It's a very common thing amongst riders, journalists, whatever. This is a universally loved bike, and it's easy to see why. Thankfully, fortunately, the evolution of this bike, the ones you see here next to me, just make it even better. It is such a fun, easy, fast bike to ride. That bump in power from 1078cc to 1099cc is not huge, but it certainly gives you more of a kick in the pants when you just get on it and go. It's pretty cool. They claim 217 horsepower, 92 pound-feet of torque, I believe it is, at like 10,250. So it gets up and it goes really damn well. But you kind of expect that from this V4 engine, right? Over the years, things have just gotten more and more powerful with these V4s and with the superbike class in general. So make no mistake, these are fast, powerful machines, but if you're watching this or if you're reading the story on Mo, you kind of already expect that. You already know these are powerful motorcycles. I think what I'm equally as impressed with is the ergonomics. I like the way both of these bikes feel for me. I can get into that tuck better. I can feel more, you know, in that bubble, in that zone more compared to before. I can lay my chin on this lower tank in this little groove set for me. I have got space back here to scoot back and really get in that tuck. Yeah, that lower seat height and the lower pegs, it kind of all just works for me. I like that quite a bit. Then there's the electronics. The updated ECU, now at the 6-axis IMU, it just works better than before, and the previous version was already really damn good. I do notice though, I had the TC set to level 4 because these conditions were not so great. I'd play around with how much lower I would have it. With like level 4, like a medium setting like that, you really gotta be careful with how much lean angle you have and the amount of throttle you apply, because it will, you know, kind of curtail the fun a little bit. But it's really cool if you're trying to work on your technique to see if you can get on the power without TC kicking in. And I noticed if I'm carrying more roll speed through a turn like turn 5 or turn 4 here at Laguna Seca, more roll speed, and I'm gradually picking up on the throttle as the lean angle is getting back to vertical, I can get back, you know, apply that throttle and not see TC kick in, and you can feel it kick in, and you can see the light on the dash light up as well. So if you get greedy and you're leaning it over and you crank it on, you definitely feel it kicking in and you see the light. But if you can play with your technique and pick it up and ease on the throttle, you can go equally as fast and never have the interventions kick in. So it's kind of a cool way to play with your technique as you're going along. I dig that. You may or may not, I don't know. Speaking of electronics, the factory version here with the Öhlins electronic suspension. You know, I dig electronic suspension for street rides. It does a great job for accounting for the different things you're going to experience on a street ride. For the track though, there's just no getting around how good standard analog suspension like you find on the base RSV4. It's just sack suspension, but it works so well. You can really dial it into what the track requires, and it's consistent all the time, and you can plan around that. The electronic stuff, it's always changing because it's trying to predict what's going to happen next, and it's reacting to what the ground is doing all the time, even though the racetrack never changes. So it's always changing, which means it never quite does the same thing twice. With the analog stuff, same thing. Every time you know what to expect, it just feels more precise. So if you're doing racetrack stuff with the RSV4, the base version, this guy right here, that's my pick. I would go with this guy because I don't need the electronic suspension stuff for racetrack scenarios. I would probably ditch all that, put standard analog stuff back on and go rip. So the standard bike works great for that. Stylema brakes, no issues with getting on the brakes. The front ABS, when you have it in race ABS, I could feel it kick in a tiny little bit under like super duper hard braking. Probably for the better considering the conditions we are in today. Yeah, I could feel it, but for once I didn't mind it kicking in because, yeah, I wouldn't mind that extra little safety net on a day like today where the skies are about to open up, the clouds are above us, it's cold. I like that kind of thing. Yeah, overall, really impressive. That TFT display, it's bigger this year, 5.5 inches. Very clear. You can see a lot of stuff. Honestly, I wasn't really paying attention to too much of it, just the very bare minimum that I needed to see. But, you know, everything's there and it's bright and it's easy to see. So, very, very good. Yeah, so that's kind of my take. Oh, the wings. How can I forget the wings? Here's the part that might bum some of you out. Did they work? I don't know. I could still get the front end up in the sky a little bit without having a non-winged bike here to reference back and forth. It's hard to say how good these work. What I can say is the wheelie control is pretty darn sweet. If you know Laguna Seca, turn 11, the very last turn is a very tight, slow, 90-degree left-hand turn, and then you just whack on the throttle. You're in first gear, whack on the throttle, and you're barreling down this straightaway, just 100% throttle. And with the wheelie control, as you're coming out through the gears, shifting your butt back in the seat, and you're lifting the power up, you can feel that front end come up, and then come down. No drama, no nothing, it's super sweet. And I suck at wheelies, so having this thing here to kind of catch me as it comes up and bring me gently back on the ground, butter. It's so nice. But that's been a trait for Pirelli electronics for a while. It just works, and it works really well. And so, yeah, RSV4, it's always been a favorite bike. It just gets better and better, and this latest iteration is the bomb. I super dig this. Like I said, the catch, you got 19 grand for the RSV4, 25 for the factory version, and if it were me, my money, I'm doing the RSV4, not the factory. I don't need the electronic suspension. Yeah, forged wheels are nice, I'm not gonna deny that, but this thing kicks ass. The RSV4, not the factory, is a really, really good motorcycle. Yeah, hugely impressive. It always has been impressive, and it continues that tradition today. Freaking love this motorcycle. So, so good. There you have it, my quick take on the Aprilia RSV4 for 2021. A fantastic motorcycle, always has been, continues to be for 10 plus years now. And what a good bike. Excited to see what Aprilia has coming out next for their superbike range, but if you've got your eyes on an RSV4, can't go wrong. Anyway, you can get my full thoughts at Motorcycle.com. You can read my written review there. I'll have a chance to actually fully flesh out my thoughts and get it all on digital paper and really think things through. But as a quick and dirty take, having just come off the racetrack and put on my regular clothes, there you have it. Electronics are great. Engine makes even more power, but it's really easy and usable to use. The chassis has always been nimble and easy and fun and confidence inspiring. That hasn't changed. Yeah, such a good bike. So, like I said, thank you for watching. Go over to Motorcycle.com to see my full thoughts there. If you like this video, click the like button, subscribe. If you have a question about the bike, feel free to ask in the comments below. If you didn't like this video, which I'm sure some of you don't, well, I'm sorry, but that's the best I got. So anyway, thanks for watching. I'll catch you later. See ya.